This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Mapper Forward's first on-demand workshop, How to Become a Coffee Consultant. Available now online for you to learn at your own pace with a certificate available upon completion. Click the link in the show notes to access today for just €50. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 2 of our 5-part series with Ryan from Specialty Batch in Dubai. Ryan, welcome back to the podcast.
Hi Lee, thanks for having me back.
We are talking about coffee culture. And as we discuss coffee culture, we were talking in the last episode about how coffee has developed over time in the UAE. In this episode, we're going to talk about the impact of education on a developing cafe culture. So tell us about how that's developing here, because there's a lot of education that goes on in this part of the world.
Yeah, I think we've got quite a few instructors, educators, and programs happening on a daily basis here as well. I think it's good on the one hand. On the other hand, I feel like a lot of the content needs to be strictly sort of moderated, governed. I mean, in my personal and professional experience, I've encountered a lot of situations where misinformation is spreading, or there's instances of where customers get information from baristas that are false. So I think, on the one hand, it's really good to have this sort of level of commitment to the education aspect of coffee. But on the other, I feel like it does need to be governed. You do need to sort of draw the line and say, okay, this is true content, this is genuine content, and this is false. So I think having a clear path is quite vital in actually developing the industry in a more positive light.
Okay. I haven't seen as many ASTs anywhere in the world as there is here. Why are people so... why is education prioritized here over other parts of the world, do you think?
Honestly, I'm not too sure.
Do you notice it though?
I do notice it. And I think, from my side of things, I can always look at it from my perspective, at least, when it comes to education. I feel like everyone values the importance of education. Everyone sort of understands that, appreciates it. I feel like right now in the current market, baristas are sort of shopping around for educational providers. And I don't know what drives people to become, instructors or whatnot. But I feel like, obviously it's an opportunity. It's a resourceful opportunity where you can earn a living out of it or earn a side hustle out of it. But again, when you have so many trainers providing content for specialty coffee, I feel like every one of them, if they are delivering a barista program or a roasting program, every one of them need to follow a very sort of strict guideline on what sort of content is transferred. And I'm actually writing a piece on this as well, which should come out soon. But talking about education, I feel like the aspect of education is super important for baristas and for consumers alike. But again, governance, I think that's key.
Do you think there's enough of it?
Enough of what, sorry?
Governance.
It comes back down to ethics. Everything boils down to ethics, business ethics and whatnot. But I don't know. It depends what the barista is actually hoping to achieve. If he's or she's looking for, just a certification, and the quickest, easiest path to get that certification, that's what damages the industry, is where you get certificate hunters just trolling the market, trying to find some false sense of acclaim.
Can you help people understand what you mean by that? Because some people won't be familiar with what you mean by certificate hunters.
So various institutions will provide a certificate if you complete a certain level of education. Now, a lot of these industry certifications hold value. So it's meant to be like, you wear it as a badge of honor. I mean, I've personally interviewed loads of candidates that come to me with foundation, intermediate, even professional certifications. But when it comes to putting that into practice, the skills are not there. Which leads me to believe that they achieved a certain level of certification without going through the due diligence of efficient education and efficient knowledge transfer. And I think that's what's super important is don't do the program merely for the certification. Do it for the content. The certification is to validate that content.
Right. And there's the other part of it, which is the practical implementation of what you're learning through this. And that's where we start to get into some murky water of if you can have these certificates and you can go and do those, foundational and intermediate and professional. But what a lot of ASTs tell me is that they have people who want to do all of them back to back.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that's not the way this is designed to happen.
I mean, certain providers do that, though. I mean, essentially, it comes back down to ethics. Should you run the program? Should you invite people to be a part of that program? Do you believe that you can efficiently instill knowledge in an individual in such a short time frame? So, I mean, I don't sort of condone that sort of teaching methodology, but I know it exists.
And what do you think are the disadvantages of doing that on a very practical level? I know it sounds obvious what the disadvantages of that are, but some people don't see the disadvantages of that, and that's why they're doing them. So do you want to spell some of those out?
Let's rephrase. What are the advantages of it, really?
Okay.
I mean, the advantage is you get a piece of paper in the shortest possible time. That's really it. That's the only advantage. There's no other advantage because you do not have a working knowledge, a working understanding of the skill that you are trying to obtain. So the disadvantage is the reverse of that. You haven't really acquired the knowledge. I mean, it's like anything that you're studying. It does require time. The brain's not able to absorb information or that much information in such a short time frame. So as an educator, or a teacher, it's their obligation to understand that and to understand that there are different individuals who can't absorb information as fast. So that's why this timeline exists, is so that you can have an atmosphere, create the environment where effective transfer of information can exist.
And there's the other obvious issue that arises there is, let's say you land a job with a certificate, and you land the job because you have the certificate and you can talk the talk. It takes most people about 3 seconds to figure out that you don't know what you're doing.
Well, most, cafe owners, not most, many, I'd say, don't consider that. I mean, and this is where I think education is important for the owners of cafes and coffee shops. Baristas get employed based on the pieces of paper that they bring to the interview. And, they'll make it through the round of interviews. They'll land the job. But essentially that damages the industry that does do the certifications.
It's a whole economy over here, education. Like I speak to ASTs who fly all over the country, doing this kind of side hustle, or they've made a full business out of it. When does the market get too saturated when it comes to education and educators?
That's a tough one. I mean, what determines the level of saturation? Essentially, if everyone is doing doing the same thing, if everyone is teaching the same content, if everyone is worthy of being called a teacher, but that's not the case here. I mean, I just don't see. I've sat in, I've looked at, I've seen online a whole bunch of different training providers, and the graduates out of those programs, they have not got the knowledge that they should have. you know?
So quality is
Um,
important.
yeah, I mean, teaching is hard, you know? It takes a lot of persistence. It takes a lot of understanding of people's character, of their abilities. I know, I mean, you know, my wife's a teacher, and she, you know, I see the sort of stress that it can put on a person, and it's not an easy task. And I think going into teaching, it's an obligation. You have to take the responsibility seriously. It's not just about getting as many people in that classroom, and certifying as many people as possible. You know, you don't aim for that 90% success rate. I mean, ideally, yes, you want that, but you don't find the fastest path to that. Your priority is always transferring that knowledge.
Which isn't, it should be the priority. But I
mean, for the industry to succeed, you know, across all realms.
Do you think people have that vision, though?
I don't know.
That's fair.
I don't know.
That's fair. Do you think that because there is such a heavy focus on education here and educating the baristas, what do you think that the flow-on effect or the impact that has on the consumer?
Again, it boils down to the individuals themselves, because once they attain that knowledge, it's about people skills thereafter, because you can have really interesting conversations with individuals who have a wealth of knowledge, but they understand the person that they're speaking to, and they impart that information in a very understanding way. So you don't overwhelm the customer with a whole bunch of information that is not relevant to them. So I think education and knowledge is one thing, but then people skills is another thing. So you can, and that's hard to train. You know, you can give as much knowledge as you want to a person, but at the end of the day, educating consumers the right way comes with certain skills of the individuals themselves.
And that's what you were talking about when being a teacher is actually really hard, because connecting all of those different skill sets is what makes a well-rounded teacher.
True. I mean, this is hospitality. At the end of the day, you know, we are in a specialty field, but at the end of the day, this is still hospitality. Now, you know, people go off and study, you know, mechanical engineering or biochemistry. Now, those graduates, they are in a certain industry where they are appreciated and valued for the knowledge that they have. And they don't have to, you know, communicate with average, you know, consumers on a daily basis about their craft. So I think hospitality, understanding that there is a wealth of knowledge involved in all aspects of coffee, but then also having this space where you have to appreciate the general consumer and their ability to, or their need, or their willingness to absorb information or to take in information.
Sometimes they just want their coffee.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Sometimes they just want their coffee. In the next episode, folks, we're going to be talking about, we're getting closer to some hot button topics where we're going to talk about employer-employee relationships in the workplace. And there are some interesting things that are happening in the UAE around this subject. So join us in the next episode. Thanks, Ryan. Peace, love, and peanut butter, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in, friends. There are 2 ways you can support this podcast. Firstly, become a paid member of our YouTube channel. Secondly, you can join our Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video before you leave, and check the show notes for more information. Now, this is what you should check out next.